What's up everyone, and welcome back to the channel. Today we've got Francis Ngannou's boxing dream, a brewing battle of the Rafas, and much more. Don't forget to like this video and subscribe to the channel to see more videos just like this. Now let's get to it. Boxing has to be part of new UFC deal, says Francis Ngannou. With just one fight left on his contract in the UFC and a scheduled heavyweight title unification bout against Ciryl Gane set for UFC 270 on the 22nd of this month, Francis Ngannou is already setting his sights on what he plans for his next contract. Ngannou and the UFC have been on opposite ends of the negotiating table for the better part of the last year, after the Cameroon native won the heavyweight title back in March by a knockout of Stipe Miocic. Things got dicey really quick, so much so that the UFC decided to hold an interim title fight in August, which saw Ciryl Gane, a former training partner, hoist the title. For his part, Ngannou and his agent say it's more than the money, and not only do they want to be more active in the UFC, Ngannou also wants to ensure that he'll be able to take on professional boxing fights outside of the promotion. Case in point, during an interview with TMZ this week, this is what the 35-year-old had to say.
This is gonna happen either way, and even if I stay, or when the UFC and I we finalize a deal, the boxing part has to be into it, because I can't see myself how to retire without boxing.
Ngannou then went on to talk about how he wants to challenge himself and take on the top heavyweight boxers of the world, including Tyson Fury and Deontay Wilder. But what do you think? Do you believe if he wins his title unification bout at UFC 270, especially via knockout, the UFC would be open to adding a clause that would allow him to take on striking fights outside of the promotion? One important note is that if he does win, the UFC has a champions clause that would kick in and extends his contract for a few more fights, although these details are a bit hazy. Still, what do you think about Ngannou's wish to fight pro boxing while under contract with the UFC? And do you think other fighters will follow suit if this does happen? After court orders Mark Hunt to pay hefty UFC legal fees, Hunt issues a fight challenge to Dana White and Fertitta brothers. Mark Hunt has been ordered by a U.S. District Court in Nevada to pay the UFC over $388,000 in legal fees and costs as his lawsuit against the promotion winds its way through the courts. Hunt's lawsuit against the UFC began back in 2019, in which he says that the promotion knowingly put him in a 2016 bout against the fighter, in this case Brock Lesnar, who they knew was taking PEDs, endangering his health and safety. This suit is now in the appeals process, which addressed claims of fraud and battery. A Nevada court has now ordered Hunt to pay the UFC's legal fees, citing a clause in Hunt's contract with the UFC. After news of the ruling made the rounds, Hunt went on social media irate over the decision and challenged Dana and the Fertitta brothers, the former executives of the UFC named in the suit under Zuffa, to a fight in the cage. He posted an Instagram photo of himself and Dana White and wrote a caption that was later deleted. It read, "Mark the Super Samoan versus Dana the Parasite White, Lorenzo Fertitta, and Frank Fertitta. 5 rounds MMA, these losers at Dana White, Frank Fertitta, Lorenzo Fertitta have sucked the life out of so many fighters, him and his scum friends. You win, I drop the lawsuit. I win, you pay every fighter you have ripped off since the UFC started. Now, who would pay to see that?" Hunt claims in the lawsuit that the UFC committed a crime related to racketeering, fraud, false pretenses, breach of contract of good faith and fair dealing, negligence, and unjust enrichment related to the UFC 2000 fight against Lesnar, who tested positive for PEDs both in and out of competition tests, and the result was later overturned to a no contest as a result. What do you think about the lawsuit? And what are your thoughts about Hunt's statements here? Let us know in the comments below. Jorge Masvidal's response to Dana White video calling out Jake Paul and his accountant. The back and forth between Jake Paul and Dana White is the gift that keeps on giving. And now, Jorge Masvidal is chiming in with a little hilarity of his own. Jake Paul has consistently called out the UFC for the paltry revenue share among fighters, about 16%, much less than other big-time sports, and stated that fighters need to be better compensated in the world's biggest fight promotion. But Paul's accusation that White was a cocaine user and abuser was what really got under the skin of the UFC boss man, who issued a challenge in turn to Paul, saying that Paul can drug test him for the next 10 years for cocaine if Dana White can test Jake Paul for PEDs for the next 2 years. Paul continued with his insults and threw statements out about fighter pay, to which White, over this past weekend, blasted him and his business partner, a former UFC CFO, for shady dealings and reissued his testing challenge. White's video has been making the rounds online, and none other than Jorge Masvidal saw it, reposted it, and made a hilarious statement of his own. "Thank you to my employer for recognizing my hard work. Only took you 4 years. Hashtag super necessary." Masvidal has also been embroiled in a war of words with Jake Paul, slamming the YouTuber turned boxer for a lot of reasons. What do you think of Masvidal's response to White's video? Don't forget to take a second to hit that like button and subscribe to the channel to stay up to date on the latest fight news. While Tony Ferguson and Rafael dos Anjos talk about a potential fight, Rafael Fiziev butts into the discussion. Tony Ferguson has been in the news a bit this week, calling out Michael Chandler, but Rafael dos Anjos is also looking for a fight as well, and called out Ferguson on Twitter in one post, asking if he's available on February 19th, with Ferguson responding in kind. "Aha, a fellow chucker. Let me check with my secretary. Please hold. La da 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 dee da do." Ferguson was clearly being coy here. But one guy who does not want to see a rematch between these two is Rafael Fiziev. Fresh off his knockout win over Brad Riddell in early December, Fiziev tweeted out this to dos Anjos. "We all saw that fight and already replied to the UFC that I'm available for that day." Then he doubled down with a Twitter video and straight out issued a challenge to dos Anjos.
Rafael, yesterday is a history. Tomorrow is a mystery. But today is a gift. That's why it's called the present. Let's find out who is the best Rafa in the UFC.
Which fight would you prefer to see? Dos Anjos versus Ferguson 2 or Dos Anjos versus Fiziev? Let us know in the comments who you think would win. Ariel Helwani roasts Dillon Danis in a series of tweets. It's safe to say that Ariel Helwani really isn't a fan of Dillon Danis, especially after the BJJ black belt and MMA fighter called Helwani a for supporting Jake Paul. Well, Helwani looked like he was lauding Paul for his efforts to troll and rattle UFC President Dana White, and Danis, for his part, continued to call Ariel a. Then Ariel went full Helwani with a tweet storm aimed at Danis, calling him out for his inaction. Guys, if you think life sucks right now, just think, you could have begged for 3 years to fight a 0-0 YouTuber and 3 years later still not be popular enough or good enough to even be considered a worthy opponent for him. Imagine that. In other words, you could be Dillon Danis. Hey guys, follow me real quick and I'll follow you back and pay you 1,000. For f***'s sake, get a grip, Dillon. Who acts like this? 3, 2, 1 before old DD texts me, "Hey bro, why don't you like me? Like I thought we were cool, bro." Can't wait for the witty tweet reply too. And then he'll call for a truce and then ask me to retweet his tweets every 2 seconds. What a pleasure. And finally, Helwani ended it all by saying this. "Anyway, maybe this will be the year he accepts your challenge, Dillon. I personally hope he does, so you can leave us the F alone with your stupid tweets and lame social media skills. Save us, Scott Coker. The begging is unbecoming. Please, for the love of God, save us." What do you make of Helwani's tweets here? And do you think Danis will finally step into the cage in 2022? Thank you so much for joining us today and catching up on all things MMA. What do you make of what's going on in the fight world? Make sure to like this video and subscribe to the channel to stay up to date on all the latest news from the MMA world. See you next time.